Welcome to our virtual classroom. Today I have with me Shirley McNaughton on Skype. And Shirley needs no introduction to all of you, but I would like to add a few words from my side personally. I have known Shirley for the past 3 years, and working with Shirley each day and getting to know her better is a pleasure. She is the kindest person walking on this planet, and each day for me is a great learning experience, and I'm really fortunate to have known her and work with her that closely. And I feel I'm really fortunate to do this video to ask her a whole lot of questions as anyone new to Bliss and to see what she has to say about it. So presently Shirley is on Skype, so I'm just going to call her in a minute and to know more about Bliss. She is in Florida, and it's over to her to say more about how she is, where she is, and how things are. And I'll be asking her questions. The reason for doing this video is that for anyone new, it would be good to know about Bliss from and what Shirley thinks about what Bliss is and how we should use it, and what are the things that we should keep in mind. So over to Shirley now. Welcome, Shirley, to our video for our virtual classroom. First, I would like to ask you, not ask you, but tell our viewers where you are and how you're doing.
Would like me to do that?
Yes, sure.
Oh, okay. I am in sunny Florida, and it truly is sunny because our second trip down, we've been here since the 1st of February, and we have only had 2 rainy days, and they were both finished by 12 o'clock noon.
Wow.
So it's sunshine every day and in the early 80s. So we're very, very fortunate, enjoying every minute of it. We're in a little cottage in a campsite that has motorhomes on it and small cottages and a lot of activities for people to do. So there's swimming and shuffleboard and tennis and glass cutting and music and computer classes. We're very, very busy and having a lovely time.
And as you can see, you're busy even doing something for the classroom. So definitely you are busy, Shirley. And thanks for taking out time for doing this video. Okay, so as I've said earlier, this video, I'm doing it for our site facilitators as well as for our students. And I have a whole bunch of questions for Shirley, and it's all regarding Bliss. And it's for someone who is new. And okay, you can see David right behind me. He's helping me. Oh, you don't have to go. Okay, so my first question to Shirley, and this is for somebody totally new to Bliss. So what is Bliss? I would like you to explain Bliss in your own words.
Well, Bliss, and its full name is Blissymbolics, is a language, and it was created by a man back in the 40s, 1942 to 1945, as an international language. But we discovered it in 1971 and have been using it ever since for persons who are unable to speak but who have a lot of things to say. This language is different from the language of English because although it's written and it is in a visual form, it represents meaning instead of sounds. So a word is made up of elements, and each element is a meaning, whereas when you look at the word, say the word father, it's made up of the sounds of the letter F and the letter A and the letter T. In Blissymbolics, that symbol of father or any other symbol, the shapes represent meaning. And because of this, it's been very easy for people to learn. The other benefit to it is, as people learn these symbols, they also learn the meaning of the word. So they get something that they can speak with, but they also get something that helps improve their understanding. Bliss is compared to other systems that are used by persons who are non-speaking,
Mm-hmm.
but all of these other systems are picture-based, so they don't have as many of the language features that Bliss has. And if the person were still interested, as I tell them all these things about Bliss, I would say one more thing that's important to me. Because Bliss is a language, it has something that we call duality.
Mm-hmm.
And duality means that the language can be divided up into parts at two different levels. At the word level, which is where we have all the meaning elements, or in English, we have all the sound elements.
Mm-hmm.
And it can also be divided up into sentence levels, where we can produce sentences both in Bliss and in English with a whole lot of elements in it. And we encourage our Bliss users to put as many Bliss words in their Bliss sentences as they can, so that people can better understand them. In this way, it helps them develop their language, it improves their communication, and all the time they're learning much more about their world, because they're learning what the things mean that they have a symbol for.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I should say one other thing. One thing that is often used when people are describing Bliss is that you're able to spell words, but you spell them with meaning instead of spelling them with sounds. So I would say all that to someone new with Bliss if they were prepared to listen to that much.
I'm sure they would, if they're interested, for sure. Okay, moving on to the next question. My next question is to you, Shirley, and it is, what was you involved with pre-Bliss? Like before Bliss, what were you doing? What were you interested in?
Okay, raising a family, 2 young sons to bring up, and they were born in 1957 and 1960.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to teacher's college when my younger son was 5. So I went to teacher's college. Then I taught in the Toronto schools and in the North York school, kindergarten and junior kindergarten. And then I went to what was then the Ontario Crippled Children's Centre, and I taught kindergarten there too, but regular special ed kindergarten, and I was unable to do anything for the children who were non-speaking. At least I felt I was doing very little, because they could never participate like the other children. Mm-hmm. And many of the other children just talked an awful lot, and that meant the poor guys who couldn't speak just had to sit and listen. So I guess that, plus prior to becoming a teacher, I did a lot of nursery school work, and I taught piano. So I've always been interested in music all my life.
And in teaching, yes. Thank you, Shirley. So the next question would be, is what is so unique about Bliss? Or may I say, what makes Blissymbolics so unique?
Well, it's unique because it is a language, mm-hmm. and because it's a language, it has those features I was talking about a few minutes ago. And it has a very large vocabulary, and I guess the most important thing is that the vocabulary can be increased and developed either by the individual user, mm-hmm. and we have a symbol called the combined symbol that enables the user to make up. Really what they're doing is spelling a brand new word with meaning. And they're able to do that for any word that isn't on the display, mm-hmm. which they have available to them. So that makes Bliss very special. The user can really say anything they want. And secondly, this language is being developed internationally because it's being used internationally, and people all around the world are involved in adding to the vocabulary. They meet at least once a year. It's called the International Panel, and at that meeting, new vocabulary is developed. It becomes part of this large standard vocabulary, of which we have 4,500 symbols right now, but it grows. Every time there's a meeting, it grows by 100 or 200 new Bliss symbols. The next meeting is in April this year.
Mm-hmm.
And we found a way for Canadians to be involved. Even though the meeting's going to be in Oslo, Norway, we're going to be involved from Canada, helping with the development of these new vocabulary items. The picture sets, which are the alternative to Bliss, can be increased as well, because people can always make new pictures. But the Bliss symbols have this input from many different cultures and many different language bases, and this means that every new Bliss symbol is teaching the user the meaning and the broader meaning of what the symbol stands for.
Okay. Now, Shirley, if somebody had a combined symbol that they had made it, and as I know, the combined symbols are really very unique to the user. Now, if somebody thought that if they wanted this to become authorized, so what's the process for doing so?
Well, right now I think they should give that new symbol to you.
Okay.
You could send it to the international panel. And right now, it's not too late. Right now, those symbols could be sent to, it would be Margareta Janisch.
Okay.
And she's in Sweden, but she could add it to the agenda for the international panel to study. And then, this is something our users need to be understand. It doesn't mean it will get accepted. It will get debated and discussed, and people from Israel and Norway and Sweden and England will all have their comments on it, and then everyone will either accept it or develop it further so that it will be understandable internationally.
I think it becomes more international once it's gone in that kind of a forum and people do discuss about it. So
Yes.
it's not any more individualized, but it's a good thing. So I will definitely, people who are watching could definitely send in their symbols to me and I can send it to Margareta.
And that would be wonderful, and it would be known as the Canadian contribution, which is great.
Okay. Moving on to the next question, and my next question is, what is or are the challenges that one may face if they wanted to introduce Bliss to someone new?
Well, the biggest challenge, and I think it's the challenge in all our lives, is time.
Okay.
Anyone who wants to use Bliss or wants to teach Bliss needs to give time to learning it. It's not self-evident. You can't just look at a symbol and think, oh, I know what that means. You have to know the elements, and you have to know their parts and why they've been put together as they've been put together. And so that takes time. And what we've found through the years, back in the 70s, people seemed to have the time. They would come to 4- and 5-day workshops in order to learn about Bliss symbolics. And now teachers have trouble even getting a half of a day to come and take training. We've tried to solve that problem by having a course on the web, and we have Bliss 101 and Bliss 201 on the web for people to learn. But even then, it takes maybe up to 50 hours of self-study in order to learn, and that is a prohibiting factor for many people. For the students, though, when you've got your life to learn it, you learn it day by day, and if you've got a facilitator helping you, and they can be learning with you. That's another way to beat the time problem, is have the facilitator learn along with the student. I guess the other challenging part is that not too many people know about Bliss, and so we have to spread the word so that people know what it is and how valuable it is and how important it is for people to give the time. But once they get into it, it really is a fun language. And I don't know how much time Shirley's giving me here, but I should tell you about our early days when we were all learning Bliss for the first time, back in 1971. And we had a team of people, we were all learning it, and we would practice when we had our coffee breaks, when we had our lunch breaks, and we'd be writing little notes to each other. We were the only ones in the cafeteria who knew what we were talking about, and we had so much fun. So if people can treat the time that they give as an enjoyable, fun experience, then it's worth putting the time into.
Okay.
One additional thing about Bliss that makes it fun is its heavy reliance on metaphors. And metaphors are when you describe something by comparing it to something else. And for example, the Bliss symbol for a child is a little flower.
Okay.
And the Bliss symbol for an adult is a big flower. And the symbol for a teenager is that flower, which is neither big nor little, but back and forth between being an adult and a child. That kind of learning is fun.
Okay, that's great. Any other symbol is something like that? Can you give another example? Anything that comes to your mind, which can make Bliss learning so fun?
Well, my favorite one, which adults like, and I hope many of our students will like, in Blissymbolics, the symbol for the man is the person of action, and the symbol for the woman is the person who creates life. But if you could see the symbols, this would be easier to understand. But I've changed the meaning of the woman because the symbol for action is almost the same as the symbol for creation, except it doesn't have the earth line.
Yes.
So I say that the woman is the person of action with her feet firmly on the ground.
Yes.
And all the women in the audience always appreciate that one and see what fun you can have when you explain symbols.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to the next question, Shirley. What is it that we need to keep in mind while talking to a Bliss user, or as a matter of fact, to talking to any non-speaking individual?
Okay, I've made a list here, and I want to be sure I say everyone, because everyone is important.
Okay.
Number one, to give them their full share of the conversation, not to keep talking at them and not allowing them to respond and to ask you some questions in return. So that's number one. Number two is to have respect for what they're saying, because sometimes they may speak from lack of experience and they may say something that surprises you, but it's something that teaches you how much they need to learn about that particular subject. Number three, recognize they have a lot to say. You just have to give them the opportunity. And number four, I guess it is, to understand that by speaking, they develop their language and that their understanding and knowledge grows along with their speaking. You can't just develop your world knowledge by listening to other people. You have to be able to speak yourself, ask questions at the appropriate time, not when the person's gone on and changed the topic and move forward and then try to remember what your question ever was. So this being able to have your share of the conversation and to have your partner giving you lots of time, not only does it help your communication, but it helps in your world knowledge, helps in your understanding, helps in your self-esteem. It's just critical.
And now, another question just came up to my mind is that while we are talking to a person, Shirley, and if I'm new to that person, I may just ask some of the questions like, how are you? And they'll just say, fine. So, that kind of stops the conversation there. So what are the things that we need to keep in mind? If we are working with a person, a Bliss user, or in a matter of fact, non-speaking individual, what are the things we need to keep in mind to, keep the conversation going? And as a matter of fact, what should a non-speaking individual do to continue with the conversation. Any advice on that?
Yeah, you reminded me of one thing, but just you've kind of asked two things here. But if you're brand new, the individual, the first thing you have to do is find out how they communicate.
Okay.
And hopefully it will be on their display, and there'll be a little note that says, I look up with my eyes to the right to say yes and to the left to say no, and I point with my middle finger or my index finger. Hopefully that will be there. But if it isn't, then you have to say, I want to learn how you communicate. I'm going to ask you a lot of yes-no questions.
Okay.
And my first question would be, how do you tell me yes? And then you find out. So you may have to be the detective and find this out, or it may be there ready for you.
Okay.
Now, the second thing is you sit down so that you have eye level with them and you're not looking down on them and being very imposing. And once everything, the stage is set, you know how they communicate, you're sitting comfortably, you can initiate, or you can start right away by saying, is there something you'd like to tell me? Or what would you like to say? And always keep checking throughout the conversation. If you find out that you're dominating this conversation, then you stop and say, I really want to hear what you have to say. Or I really want you to take a turn now. Do you have a question? Because they may be a little shy. They may be a little nervous with you. So you have to keep thinking about how you can involve them so they get their equal part in the conversation. Ask as few yes-no questions. And they're questions that say, do you like this? Do you want to do this? Did you go there? Where the only thing they can say is yes and no. Turn your questions into, tell me about, or I'd like to hear more about. Something like that. And then, this is a big long thing, but then if you don't understand, tell them so.
Okay.
And say, tell me in another way. I don't understand. And encourage them to do that. Put the responsibility back onto yourself to understand and give them the opportunity to clarify.
Okay.
Does that give you enough to start with?
That's a lot. Thank you. Yeah, that's great also. Okay.